Some Call of Duty maps are really, really good. Some maps are really, really bad. But some maps, well, they're just dumb. They just make you scratch your head and ask, what in the world were the developers thinking? What is up, everybody? Jimmy or Chaos. Today, we're going to be looking at 20 of the absolute dumbest with a big D maps in COD history. Now, dumb doesn't necessarily mean bad. Most of these maps are pretty bad, though, as well. But being really dumb can be at a conceptual level. So you let me know which of these you think is the dumbest in COD history. Drop a like, and at number 20, we're starting out with some dumb ones. But trust me, as we count down to number 1, well, the dumbness meter, it definitely rises. Flooded in Call of Duty Ghosts. Ghost didn't have a great lineup of launch maps anyway. In fact, some would say it actually had the worst launch map lineup in Call of Duty history. Some would say that, and this Call of Duty historian would say that as well, because they were so big and campy. Now, some of the maps in Ghost were a little bit overhated. Flooded certainly deserved all the hate it got, though, from the community. Not only was this map massive, freaking huge, but it also had a seriously overcomplicated layout that made it totally unpredictable. And on top of all that dumbness, it also had a bunch of annoying flooded sections where you could sink or drown really quickly. And on top of all that, there was also a bunch of secret areas in the map that would further slow down the pace, and there were several glitch spots. So yeah, this map was dumb all the way around. Way too big, way too slow, with way too many sections of the map that absolutely did not have to be there. Honestly, I think Flooded could have worked better as a DMZ location than a 6v6 map. At numbers 19 today, Stonehaven and Ghosts. I mean, you knew the map was going to be on this list somewhere if you've been around on the channel at all. It's one of the most talked about maps in COD history at the time of release, but for all the wrong reasons. It was gorgeous. This is still a beautiful map to this day, but it was freaking gigantic. This was an open world map, way too big for 6v6. Honestly, probably way too big for 10v10, to the point that somebody at Infinity Ward really should have noticed during development, but they didn't. This is a map where Team Deathmatch would regularly go to time limit with neither team hitting 40 kills. Let that sink in for a second. I mean, I don't think I ever saw a single match of kill confirmed actually hit the score limit. It was unreasonably big to a completely stupid degree, and it belongs on this list today. Really quick, guys, make sure you're subscribed with those notifications on. We are on our way to 2026, and this is going to be the year that Team Chaos hits 3 million subs. I am willing it. I am manifesting it. I have Post-it notes on my screen right in front of me while we talk, and I want you guys to come with me. I do read every single comment on every single video, and I truly appreciate the interaction with you guys every single day. At number 18, Outpost in Modern Warfare 3 2011. Does anybody remember the Easter egg on Outpost? Do you? Anyway, what would happen if we made a Call of Duty map that was gigantic, had a weird layout, and almost impossible to see because of all the snow and ice? Well, you get Outpost from the classic Modern Warfare 3 game. And as much as I love classic Modern Warfare 3, I will admit there was some stinker maps, and Outpost was one of the biggest. It stunk. I don't get the logic behind the map in any way. Not only is it one of the bigger 6v6 maps, but it's also using some strange layout that made it almost... it made it feel like one big circle, meaning it took forever to go from one side of the map to the other because you couldn't just cut across the center like you could in basically every other COD map ever. But on top of that, well, you also had some really bad visibility because the whole thing was taking place in the snow with dim lighting, and most of the major routes to get to place from place were narrow corridors that could entirely be locked down by one player with a sniper rifle or an ACR head glitch. It was a dumb map. I really don't know who thought it was going to be a fun experience. Also, bonus points to whoever makes it to the end of this video and tells me how many times I say dumb in this video. At number 17, Aftermath and Black Ops 2. Throughout the years, Aftermath has been called one of the worst Treyarch maps of all time by me a bunch. And now, I think they've had worse. Aftermath, certainly one of their dumbest from a conceptual standpoint. The map really felt like it was just taken out of the campaign, or heck, it even more felt like a zombies map than a multiplayer map because there was no flow. There were no clear battle lines or lanes or anything like that. And the spawns, they were all over the place. The only game mode where Aftermath was tolerable was Search and Destroy. I guess that kind of makes sense because that's the only game mode with no respawns. In any respawn-based mode, Aftermath was a hot mess because you never knew where people were coming from or where they were going. It also didn't help matters that half the map had horrible lighting where you could hide in plain sight as long as you were standing next to a wall. I mean, it felt like Treyarch was just out of development time, so they ripped off one of the campaign missions and put it in multiplayer. Like you have a cake, a sheet cake, and then you just cut a huge piece out of it, and then you pick that up and you make it a multiplayer map. Compared to the rest of the maps in Black Ops 2, Aftermath is a clear outlier, and I think the entire game would have been better if they cut this map out of the experience entirely. mean, Black Ops 2 had plenty of awesome launch maps, tons of great DLC maps. We all would have been okay and slept easy at night if Aftermath didn't exist. At number 16, Metro and Black Ops 3. I love Black Ops 3. I miss it a lot, as much as the next person. In fact, I think Black Ops 3 is one of the best COD multiplayers ever made. But Metro was not a good way to experience the gameplay. It seemed like Treyarch was trying to do something different with the mechanics, and it didn't take, it didn't stick, it didn't work. Metro was a very large 6v6 map. Pretty straightforward in layout, but what made it dumb and stupid was the fact that every 60 seconds or so, a bell would play and a train would zip through the dead center of the map, instantly killing anybody touching it and bringing the match to a complete standstill for 10 seconds. I mean, I think they were trying to do a similar thing that they did with Express back in Black Ops 2, where there was also a train that would come around the middle of the map and kill anybody it touched, but the big difference between Metro and Express was the fact that on Express, the train didn't split the entire map in half because there was plenty of ways to get around the train while it was active. Plus, the train on Express didn't come nearly as often as the train on Metro did, so the gameplay on Metro felt much slower. You felt like you were getting interrupted all the time because you were. Express is good. Metro's bad. Cheap imitation of it. I think it deserves to be on the list. Sometimes the magic, you just can't capture it the second time around. At number 15, Hacienda Twilight and Black Ops 4. Treyarch did quite a few weather variants in Black Ops 4. While some of them were actually pretty neat, others were just dumb. Case in point, Hacienda Twilight. And it may feel like I'm picking on Treyarch right now because I guess I am. Nighttime variant of the base map Hacienda, okay, pretty decent experience on its own, but once all the lights go off, it destroyed the flow. I mean, I want to know what the heck Treyarch thought was going to happen here. The map was basically unplayable with a thermal sight and made it so dominant, well, without a thermal sight, made it so dominant of a strategy, just find a corner, plop yourself down, and unload on anybody who came into view because they're not going to see you. Again, not all the weather variants were bad. Some of the BO4 variants were actually pretty cool. You had the nighttime firing range variant. I like that one. But Hacienda Twilight, dumb. This thing should have been axed during development. At number 14, the troll map. Gustav Cannon, COD World War II. What would happen if you made a COD map where literally all the action happened in the dead center of the map? Also, if you got to the middle of the map before everyone else, you basically won the match for free. Yeah, this is a map that probably should have been reworked after the first playtest, but I don't know who they're having playtest these maps, or rework it after all the fan backlash when the game came out, or just delete it from the game because it sucked. Gustav was the biggest map in the game on launch day, and every single part of the map was meant to push you towards the middle, piss you off, and push you to uninstall the game. Giant patch of high ground, only 2 ways up and down. So if you grabbed the high ground first and you had a buddy with you, you could just sit up there, spawn trap the enemy team until the end of the match. It was so hated that even Sledgehammer devs were throwing shade at it on Twitter. Now, conceptually, it's a bad map. Call of Duty is not a game where the entire map can be focused around a giant patch of high ground in the dead center. Like, it doesn't work in COD. But they went ahead and released the map anyway, never reworked it or patched it or did anything at all post-launch to make it better. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. I love Sledgehammer. They're my favorite developer right now. This was a huge swing and a huge miss. And some of you may argue, well, Jimmy, Bog was just a small map with a patch of high ground. Yes, but Bog was way smaller, which made it play way different. This was a huge map with one patch of high ground. At number 13, Euphrates Bridge in Modern Warfare 2019. Here you go, IW. Let's get you in the mix. It's like Infinity Ward saw all the criticisms of Gustav Cannon and they thought to themselves, hey, selves, we can make something even worse. Euphrates Bridge is another map with a huge patch of high ground in the dead center of the map, and just like Gustav, there's only 2 ways up and down. So the whole thing can be locked down by a couple players. If you loaded into a match on Euphrates Bridge, the winning team would almost instantly be decided because it was literally just a matter of whoever got control of the bridge first, because at that point, there was no way to get them down. With how strict the spawns were in the game, you could be locked in one spawn point for several minutes at a time, resulting in matches where 2 people would sit on the top of the bridge with sniper rifles and shut the enemy team out entirely by themselves. The map was just, it was bad. It was super bad. I mean, was Infinity Ward not paying attention during the COD World War II life cycle? Did they somehow not see all the signs and criticisms of Gustav Cannon, or do they just not care? At number 12. Grazna raid in Modern Warfare 2019. Let's dig in on Modern Warfare, right? Okay. What joker at Infinity Ward thought this map was appropriate for 6v6? Come on, raise your hand if you're the one that greenlit this. I mean, better question. What joker at Infinity Ward thought this map was appropriate for any playlist? This map is trash. Seriously feels like they just dumped a bunch of assets onto a blank canvas And they said, here's a map. It's beautiful. It's artwork. There's no way anybody in Infinity Ward actually thought this was a well-designed map. I'm convinced Grazna was just a cut campaign mission or a Spec Ops location or something, because as a 6v6 map, it literally goes against every rule of game design that I can think of. It's too big, way too many windows and doors. I'm 1,000% not convinced that anybody on the Modern Warfare team actually thought it was a good map. They were just slapping together something to fill out the list of required multiplayer maps, and they didn't think twice about it. The map is just straight up not designed like a multiplayer map. It's a campaign level, maybe even a Spec Ops mission. It's not 6v6 multiplayer, and yet it was in the 6v6 rotation. At number 11, Stakeout in Black Ops 6. I remember when Black Ops 6 first came out. I thought this map was pretty cool. I remember describing it as the Call of Duty equivalent of having a Nerf war in your house with your buddies as a kid. But you know what? Just because you did it as a kid doesn't mean it makes for a good Call of Duty map. And the more I played Black Ops 6, the more I started to realize, Jimmy, this map is complete nonsense. And we only liked it at first because of the theming. They sucked us in. They baited us. Stakeout is some of the worst brain rot COD game design that we've ever seen. The fact that everyone was infesting the Stakeout 24/7 playlist makes it even worse. What started out as a goofy small map turned into the sweatiest map in the game, and it really does. I don't know why we ever thought it was a well-designed map. We got sucked in. We did. It's too tightly packed. The corridors are way too small for 6v6 lobbies. The spawns were nonsense. In the middle section with the random bottomless pit, that's dumb. And there are somehow a bunch of nearly unbeatable camping spots on the map, despite it being one of the smallest 6v6 maps in COD history. I need a drink. It was dumb all the way around. I feel bad for even suggesting that this was fun. My bad, guys. At number 10. Piccadilly. Modern Warfare 2019, the last great Modern Warfare. I can respect the amount of effort that clearly went into making Piccadilly as realistic as possible to its real-world counterpart. It is absolutely stunning. But at the same time, we really shouldn't have a map in the game like this on day one. In fact, we should never have gotten the map in the game because everyone knows that the real-world locations aren't good for Call of Duty maps. Call of Duty isn't real life. It's a video game. So when you try to import real-world locations into Call of Duty, you quickly find out that there's important things. Lanes, sightlines, balanced spawn points, consistent lighting. All those good things that are not present in Piccadilly and Modern Warfare 2019. This map, it's dumb. Sucks before. If you were looking at the real world location on Google Maps, you zoom in, it is legitimately just like the Modern Warfare map, but that's the problem. You can't do that. Call of Duty is a video game that needs precise balancing in the map. So yeah, Piccadilly looks amazing. It's an incredible recreation of the actual location. But it's also an incredibly, completely unbalanced map for a multiplayer FPS title. I also want to sit down with whoever decided the location of domination flags, and I want to ask them what the heck they were smoking when they decided the domination flags on this map were going to be where they were, because there's no reason why the B flag should be so lopsided, yet there it is. Piccadilly, bad idea from the start. Whoever's worked on a Call of Duty game should have known better. At number 9. Shipment in Modern Warfare 2019. Now, when it was announced that Shipment was coming back as a DLC map, the world rejoiced. COD players were excited. Modern Warfare Remastered in 2016 reminded people just how fun Shipment could be. And then Shipment 1944 in COD World War II, it was a fun update to the classic. Kept the OG map's layout, but adjusted the spawns to make things a little more balanced. But when IW brought back Shipment for Modern Warfare, it was like they were actively trying to make the stupidest map in COD history. They changed the layout to make it even more chaotic and more unpredictable than before. They adjusted the spawns to make them insane. They had some weird verticality that didn't exist before. And the final result was a map that was entirely unbalanced to design. You literally couldn't play the map with any strategy. It was sheer chaos all the time. And you may argue, say, Jimmy, that's what Shipment's about. You're right, but it was controlled chaos. When you have people talk about brain rot map design in Call of Duty modern games, this is your example. No strategy, no battle lines, just complete insanity over and over again. At number 8. We got to get Vanguard in on the mix. Shipment and Vanguard. It's like Sledgehammer decided to take that everything people hated about Modern Warfare 2019 Shipment and make it worse for some reason. I'm really disappointed, Sledge. They brought it back in Vanguard with a World War II paint job, but instead of fixing the problems with the other version or reverting back to the OG version of Shipment or just remaking the Shipment that was in COD World War II that literally everybody liked, Sledgehammer decided this version of Shipment needed to be even dumber, even more unpredictable, even worse spawns, and even more places where you could climb on top of containers. So if you're playing on this map, you had to deal with bad spawns, horrible sightlines, people jumping on top of your head. Again, I have no idea why the modern COD developers are so resistant to just remake classic Shipment from 2007. That was objectively the most balanced version. It was still crazy, yeah. It was still chaotic, so all the TikTok brain players would still like it. I just don't understand why Shipment keeps getting worse. At number 7. Black Gold in Modern Warfare 2 2022. Map makes no sense. This one's like Infinity Ward heard all the criticism of their map design in Modern Warfare 2019. They said to themselves, okay, selves, what if we turned all the lights off? Black Gold is basically just a standard Infinity Ward map with no lights. Forces you to use your night vision goggles until you get to a section that's really bright, and then your night vision goggles blind you, so you have to take them off until you take a few more steps, and then it's pitch black, and you have to turn your goggles back on. That sounds like fun. Thing is, even with the terribly inconsistent lighting, it's not a good map. The layout, it's standard campy Infinity Ward game design, so even if you were going to fix the lighting, it's still a bad map. Maybe IW was hoping the night vision goggles would distract you from the terrible layout, but all it did was make the experience even worse than it was if the lights had been turned on. Screw this map. Seriously, it sucks. It's dumb. And number 6. Stay high in Modern Warfare 3 2023. At what point have we had enough Shipment remakes? This was yet another remake of Shipment, but it had so many things about it that made it arguably the dumbest version of Shipment today. First of all, yet another Shipment remake that decided to not use the classic layout, and instead, we used the brain rot version, plus the terrible spawns, plus the total absence of battle lines. Second of all, Sledgehammer decided to make the map trippy by using some of the most aggressive colors available and shining them right into your face while adding a bunch of annoying trippy set pieces around the map. So it's a dumb version of Shipment with dumb spawns and dumb visual effects. And now we get to top 5. At number 5. Arsenal Sandstorm Black Ops 4. Now, Arsenal was one of the original maps in Black Ops 4. It was okay. Not great, not bad, just all right. Kind of map that probably could have been improved upon. I guess that's why Treyarch picked it for a weather variant. Okay. But Arsenal Sandstorm actually ended up being such a disaster that Treyarch had to pull it out of the game entirely. You can't even play it in a private match anymore. It was literally deleted from the game files. What does that tell you? The layout of Sandstorm, same as the base Arsenal map, but with the addition of a huge, you guessed it, Sandstorm. You couldn't see more than 10 feet in front of you, so naturally, nobody moved because moving was an inherent disadvantage. People sat in corners or head glitches with thermal scopes and waited for enemies to come. This was such a horrible experience. It was ripped out of the game, and Treyarch tried to erase it from COD history instead of even trying to fix it. But guess what? That's what we do on this channel, Treyarch. We cover COD history. We have it forever memorialized. Now, I do appreciate the fact that Treyarch admitted defeat, cut their losses, but I have to ask the question on everybody's mind. I'm your voice here. Did anyone at Treyarch even playtest this? Seriously. Did anyone legitimately think this map was fun before they released? I mean, you get a bunch of the devs in there. Oh, yeah, we're going to try out this new one. Get everybody in. We're going to do it during lunch. And then they play it, and they're all like, yeah, this is awesome. They're going to like it. There's no way. At number 4. Blaze Town in Black Ops 4. Look, was anybody asking for a weed-themed reskin of Nuketown? Was that something people wanted? Was that on the forums? Was that on Reddit? Did I miss that on X? Blaze Town came to Black Ops 6 alongside a Seth Rogen crossover. Who would think? And I think it was right about there that I completely gave up on Call of Duty ever regaining its identity as an actual military arcade shooter. I mean, I feel like I should remind you guys. This is a game where you could get banned or swearing in voice chat for being too mean to somebody. They'll ban you for being mean in an M-rated game. But they'll make an entire map dedicated to a drug that, is more divisive than being mean or calling somebody a cuss word. Whatever. At number 3, Jungle Flooded in Black Ops 4. I love classic Jungle, and that's why I hate Jungle Flooded so much. And that, well, it's also the fact that it's a giant piece of crap that nobody should have signed off during development. Jungle Flooded is classic Black Ops 1 Jungle. But now we have a biblical storm that not only messed up the visibility, but also completely filled the middle of the map with water, forced you to swim through it with your gun down if you were trying to get from one end of the map to the other. I mean, it didn't do anything about the bridge and the big rock in the middle of the map, meaning whoever controlled those spots, basically, they won the match automatically because they could sit up there and shoot anyone swimming like fish in a barrel because they were. Thanks, Treyarch. You took one of the most beloved maps in my memory from the original Black Ops, my favorite game, and you turned it into one of the most annoying and unbalanced maps in COD history. I hope you guys are proud of yourselves. At number 2, Free Falling Ghost. Before I get anybody in the comment section that says this was a good map, you need to stop. I mean, I understand why Infinity Ward thought the map would be cool on paper. Like it was an action movie, Die Hard. You're fighting in a skyscraper, it's falling apart. One of the fastest playing maps in the game at the time. But in practice, it was way too much. And somebody in Infinity Ward offices should have adjusted it before it came out. The dark lighting, the strange layout, unenjoyable, right? You had all the crazy screen shaking and building destruction effects. It ended up being one of the most enjoyable maps. And that was saying something. There was a lot of reports of people actually not being able to play the map because of the lighting and shaking. It made them nauseous. A map actually physically made them nauseous. Should really have been a sign for Infinity Ward to go back to the drawing board. Guess what? That's not what IW does. The map is here. If your map literally makes people sick and want to puke, and it's not even a good map, you probably should have done something about it. Oh boy. And now we get to number 1 today. The dumbest of the dumb. The Big D. Santa Sena Border Crossing Modern Warfare 2 2022. Easily one of the most hated maps in COD history. Border Crossing, it's like a crash course on how not to make a fun Call of Duty map. It's long, it's narrow, very few flanking options, no verticality. That's where things start off bad. But what really made the map so dumb and hated was the fact the whole thing was filled with parked cars, all of which had gas tanks, all of which were explosive red barrels hidden. So the very first few minutes of a match, it was just non-stop explosions and grenade spam. And then once all the cars were destroyed, the rest of the match would be a camping fest. Infinity Ward eventually patched the cars so they wouldn't be explosive, but at that point, the map just turned into a campy, unfun snooze fest with a stupid layout. This deserves the number 1 spot today. I have no idea how anybody at Infinity Ward thought this layout was good, but I especially have no idea how anybody thought the map would be improved by filling it with explosive cars. Seriously. I wish I was a bug on a wall in some of these dev rooms. There you have it. Dumbest maps in COD history. Let me know a couple that didn't make the list that should have made the list, and I'll see you guys soon.